Before we begin, if you're someone who believes animals are heroes in fur, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and join our Brave Animals community. We tell real, powerful stories where animals change lives, save lives, and sometimes reveal the truth when no one else dares. You're not going to want to miss what's coming. He raised the sandal with a smirk. She didn't scream. She didn't flinch. But from behind the trees, something else saw it. Something with fur, fangs, and a purpose. It was just another Wednesday at Bradford Middle School. The sun hung steady above the concrete courtyard, casting warm light over clusters of kids in navy sweaters and plaid skirts. Laughter echoed. Backpacks, but then Luna rolled into the yard. 12 years old, soft brown hair, bright hazel eyes, and legs that hadn't worked since she was 5. Some kids smiled at her, a few waved, most just looked away, not out of malice but discomfort. Luna was sweet, quiet, never caused trouble. But she didn't move like the others, and middle school wasn't always kind to kids who were different. She made her way to the far side of the yard near the trees. That's where she liked to read before the first bell. She always got there early to avoid crowds, but this time someone else had gotten there first. His name was Dante. Red varsity jacket. Tall, always chewing gum. The kind of kid who didn't laugh at jokes, but at people. Especially kids like Luna. He stood arms crossed, blocking her path. 2 of his friends snickered from behind a bench. They'd seen this before. "Morning, Wheels," Dante said. "Thought you'd sneak past without saying hi?" Luna's hands tightened on her push rims. "I'm just going to read." Dante pulled something from his backpack, a black flip-flop. "You ever play dodge dep?" She stared. "That's not funny." "Oh, it's hilarious." He tossed the sandal in the air and caught it. "Bet your reflexes aren't great, huh?" Behind them, a quiet bark went unnoticed. 30 yards away, just beyond the tree line, Bracco sat. A German shepherd, canine trained, muzzle pointed, vest labeled Policia. His handler, Officer Jensen, had brought him for a school safety demo that afternoon. They arrived early. Too early, apparently. Bracco's ears twitched. He saw the wheelchair. He saw the sandal. He saw something humans often miss. Intent. Dante raised the sandal. Kids nearby froze. Luna didn't move. That's when Bracco bolted. No warning bark. No hesitation. He hit the courtyard like a bullet wrapped in fur. At first, no one understood what was happening. There was just motion, speed, and then a sound that silenced everything. A growl. Low, direct, final. Dante turned just in time to see 100 pounds of trained fury leap at him. He dropped the sandal mid-swing. Bracco didn't go for the throat. He clamped onto Dante's wrist, the exact wrist holding the weapon. Kids screamed. Some ran. Others stood in shock. Dante hit the ground hard, yelling, "Get it off! Get it off me!" Luna wheeled back instinctively. Her hands shook, not out of fear but something else. Recognition. Bracco wasn't just attacking, he was protecting. Officer Jensen arrived seconds later, sprinting from the side lot. With a firm command, Bracco released, not gently, but without extra force. Dante cradled his arm, crying louder than necessary as if the noise would wash away what had just happened. Principal Hartman came running next. "What happened?" she demanded. Kids started yelling all at once. "He was going to hit her, with a shoe, and the dog stopped him." Luna sat motionless, her eyes locked on Bracco, who now stood calmly by his handler, ears up, chest out, as if waiting for a medal. The principal knelt beside Luna. "Are you okay, sweetheart?" Luna blinked. "He didn't let him hit me." Inside the school nurse's office, Dante sobbed. Not out of pain, but humiliation. He had marks on his arm, sure. But what cut, deeper, was being taken down in front of the entire school by a dog. Outside, Officer Jensen gave a short interview to local security. Bracco stood beside him, calm as ever. "He's trained to respond to signs of imminent threat," Jensen explained. "He acted by instinct, based on how the boy raised the object." The principal folded her arms. "He didn't just act, he chose." That boy has harassed Luna for months. Nobody said anything. Not until now. Kids whispered about it the rest of the day. Not about the dog, about the silence that had lasted too long. That night, Luna sat on her porch with her mom. The air smelled like late spring, warm grass and slow breezes. Was he scary? Her mom asked gently. Luna shook her head. Not to me. He wasn't scary, he was certain. Her mother frowned. Certain? He didn't bark. He didn't hesitate. He just knew. Like he's been waiting for the moment to prove someone still sees me. Tears welled in her eyes. I didn't feel small today. The next morning, something changed. As Luna rolled into school, kids moved aside. Not with awkward glances, but with quiet respect. Someone had spray-painted a chalk outline of a paw print on the courtyard where Bracco had stood. It wasn't graffiti. It was tribute, a thank you. And beneath it, someone had written in chalk, "He protected the one no one else did." Later that week, a small assembly was held. Officer Jensen stood on stage with Bracco beside him. Luna was invited to speak. She was shy, but she rolled up, took the mic, and said only one thing. When you're in a chair like mine, you get used to people looking over you, or through you. But Bracco? He looked straight at me, and made sure everyone else did too. The gym went quiet. Then it erupted in applause. Bracco, ever humble, simply wagged his tail. There were consequences, of course. Dante was suspended. His parents were furious. But no one at school rushed to defend him. Not anymore. Even the kids who once laughed at his jokes now sat in silence when his name came up. And Luna? She started getting lunch invitations. A group formed around her during recess. Not out of pity, out of respect, out of realization. All it had taken was one dog to remind them that justice doesn't always bark. Sometimes, it bites first. The Friday after the incident, Bradford Middle School buzzed like a shaken beehive. Everyone had an opinion, a whisper, or a theory about what had happened in the courtyard. Teachers tried to stick to lesson plans, but students kept sneaking glances toward Luna during class. It wasn't the wheelchair that drew their eyes anymore. It was her silence. Luna hadn't said much since Bracco intervened. Not to her classmates, not even to her teachers. She smiled politely. She nodded when spoken to. But deep inside, something stirred that she wasn't ready to let out yet. People looked at her differently now, and she wasn't sure if it was because of what Dante did or because of what Bracco had stopped. Either way, everything had changed, and Luna wasn't sure if she liked it. In the teacher's lounge, Principal Hartman and Officer Jensen sat with mugs of lukewarm coffee. She hasn't really spoken about it, the principal said, folding her hands. I think it's shaken her more than she lets on. She's strong, Jensen replied. But even strong kids can carry quiet wounds. Bracco, lying at their feet, let out a low, sleepy sigh, as if agreeing. The principal watched the dog for a moment. He knew exactly what to do. He was trained to stop danger, yes, Jensen said. But what he did out there? That wasn't just training. That was choice. By Monday, the district had launched an internal review. Parents were upset. Some applauded Bracco's intervention. Others questioned why a dog had to step in before a teacher did. The video had been posted to social media. It had over $80,000 views in 2 days. Someone from a morning news show called the school. They wanted to interview Luna. She said no. I don't want to be famous for being a target, she told the school counselor. The counselor nodded and wrote something quietly in her notebook. At home, Luna couldn't sleep. She had this feeling in her chest, like a balloon, filled with too many words. Her mom noticed the change, but Luna just said she was tired. Late that night, she wheeled herself out to the backyard. The air was cool. The grass was damp with dew. She looked up at the stars and whispered, "Why me?" A soft sound made her turn. Bracco padded toward her through the gate, tongue out, tail wagging slowly. Officer Jensen followed a few feet behind, leash in hand. He's been restless, Jensen said. I figured maybe he wanted to see someone. Luna smiled for the first time in days. Did he tell you that? Jensen chuckled. He has his ways. Bracco sat beside her, pressing his side gently against her wheel. She reached out and scratched behind his ears. I didn't even scream, she whispered. I was too tired. He knew anyway. He's got a gift for seeing what most people miss, Jensen said. Do you think he could sense fear? Jensen looked at her carefully. Yes, and courage too. Luna let the words sit. Then she said something she hadn't said to anyone. I wasn't just scared of Dante hitting me. I was scared that no one would stop him, that everyone would just watch. Jensen didn't answer right away. Then he said, sometimes it takes someone outside the noise to hear what matters. Bracco doesn't get distracted by politics or pressure, he sees what is. The next morning, something was taped to Luna's locker. A drawing, a sketch of her and Bracco side by side. The words beneath said, real strength doesn't bark. It stands with you. There was no name on it. But Luna recognized the handwriting. It belonged to a boy named Casey. He'd once made fun of her for using a ramp instead of stairs. Now he was drawing her as a hero. Something was shifting at Bradford Middle, and it started with a dog. Meanwhile, Dante stayed home. His parents were considering transferring him to a different school. Rumors said he might be sent to a behavioral program downtown. A few of his friends still defended him, but even they were quieter now. In truth, Dante wasn't just embarrassed. He was confused. No one had ever fought back before. Not teachers, not kids, and certainly not a dog. He kept replaying the moment in his head, the sound of paws hitting pavement, the eyes, the power, and the way Luna didn't scream. It haunted him more than Bracco's bite. At the end of that week, the school held a community courage assembly in the gym. Principal Hartman stood at the mic and asked students to share stories of bravery, kindness, or change. Hands went up slowly at first. A girl talked about standing up to a friend who spread rumors. A boy confessed he used to laugh at someone's accent but apologized last week. Then Luna rolled forward. The room fell silent. I don't like attention, she said into the mic. But I realized something. If I don't speak now, then everything Bracco did would be just a moment, not a message. She looked around the gym. Being in a wheelchair doesn't mean I'm weak. Being quiet doesn't mean I'm invisible. And being different doesn't mean I don't need the same respect every student deserves. She paused. Sometimes the loudest voices are the ones who never said a word. That day, Bracco didn't bark. He acted. And because he did, I'm not afraid to speak anymore. The gym burst into applause. Even some teachers wiped their eyes. Bracco, seated beside Officer Jensen near the stage, stood up and gave one sharp bark. The entire room laughed, even Luna. That night, Luna's mom made her favorite dinner, mac and cheese with extra breadcrumbs. They ate on the couch, Bracco lying across Luna's feet like a living blanket. She leaned back and smiled. I don't feel different anymore, she said softly. Her mom looked at her. That's because you've always been brave, sweetheart. The world just needed a little help seeing it. Luna ran her fingers through Bracco's fur. Thank you, she whispered. He didn't reply, but his tail thumped once against the floor, like he understood, like he always did. Bracco's single bark at the assembly had done more than lighten the mood. It had marked the beginning of something unspoken, something real. That weekend, the students at Bradford Middle didn't just talk about Luna's speech. They replayed it. They texted each other quotes from it. They made memes of Bracco in sunglasses with captions like "Justice barks once." But for Luna, the world outside the gym remained a little too loud, a little too uncertain. It wasn't that she didn't appreciate the support. It was that she didn't know how long it would last. On Monday morning, Luna arrived earlier than usual. She liked the quiet. She liked to glide through the empty hallways before the lockers started slamming and sneakers began squeaking on the linoleum. She wheeled herself to her locker, expecting to be alone. But someone was already there. Casey. He held a small envelope. When he saw her, he shuffled awkwardly. Hey, he said. I drew another one. He handed it over and quickly walked away. Luna opened the envelope. Inside was a pencil sketch. It showed her, not in a wheelchair, but standing next to Bracco. Both of them were wearing superhero capes. Above their heads he had written, "Different doesn't mean broken." Luna smiled. Not because she liked being drawn standing, but because the message was finally right. Meanwhile, Officer Jensen was fielding interview requests. The district had authorized a short media segment about the K-9 program. A news crew came. By the station, they filmed Bracco in slow motion as he jumped through tires and followed hand signals like clockwork. But every reporter wanted to ask one thing. Did he mean to attack? Jensen always gave the same answer. Bracco doesn't attack. He intervenes. There's a difference. Still, the word attack showed up in headlines anyway. He wasn't surprised. Headlines needed drama. Bracco needed clarity. That afternoon, Principal Hartman called a staff meeting. The topic wasn't Bracco or Luna. It was Dante. His parents had decided not to transfer him. Instead, he would return the following week under strict behavioral observation. He would be pulled from sports and required to meet with the school counselor daily. The room was quiet after she spoke. Mr. Penn, the gym teacher, finally broke the silence. "What about Luna?" "She's not the one who needs watching." "Another," teacher replied. The principal nodded. "But she needs something else. She needs to know that we will be better. Not just for her, for every student who feels alone." There were no objections, just quiet resolve. When word got around that Dante was coming back, the buzz returned. Kids weren't angry. They were curious. Would he be the same? Would he apologize? Would he pretend nothing happened? No one knew. But Luna, for the first time, wasn't scared. Not because she trusted Dante, but because she trusted herself and Bracco. That Friday, a surprise assembly was announced. This one wasn't for courage. It was for something bigger. When the students gathered in the gym, a large banner hung from the rafters. Student Unity Week kickoff. Principal Hartman stood at the mic. Behind her were a line of students representing all grades, including Luna. "We've learned a lot in the last few weeks," the principal began. "About silence, about bravery, about seeing the people around as fully and clearly." She stepped aside. Luna rolled forward. This time she wasn't nervous. She spoke with calm strength. "Unity doesn't mean we're all the same. It means we stand up for each other even when it's uncomfortable, even when it's risky, because no one should feel invisible in their own school." The crowd clapped, louder than the week before. And then came the surprise. Officer Jensen stepped onto the stage with Bracco at his side. The gym erupted. Bracco sat, alert but calm. Principal Hartman returned to the mic. "Today we honor a unique member of our community." He didn't say a word, but he spoke louder than most of us ever have. She held up a small medal. It read, "Guardian of Bradford Middle." Luna leaned forward and clipped it to Bracco's vest. The crowd stood. Bracco didn't wag his tail. He just blinked slowly, as if he already knew he was home. Dante came back the following Monday. He walked into the building without fanfare. No one booed. No one clapped. They just watched. He didn't make eye contact with anyone. At lunch, he sat alone. But something strange happened. Luna rolled past his table, paused, and said, "You, no apologies mean more when they come before you're forced to say them." Dante looked up. His mouth opened like he might respond, but then he just nodded. Luna nodded back and rolled on. She wasn't looking for revenge. She was done being smaller than her fear. Later that week, Bracco visited the school again. Officer Jensen brought him to meet the younger students. One little boy asked, "Is he magic?" Jensen smiled. "No, just brave." Another kid asked, "Does he sleep with his eyes open?" "No," Jensen laughed, "but he listens even when he sleeps." Bracco walked the halls like he belonged there. And in a way he did. In front of Luna's locker, he paused, sat, waited. She came around the corner and gasped, "Hey, hero." Bracco stood and nuzzled her hand. "I guess you missed me," she said. Officer Jensen smiled. "He never really left. You're kind of his person now." Luna looked at the dog, then down at her wheels. I think I like that. That Friday, something new appeared on the school's website, a page titled The Bracco Code. It was simple, 5 rules. See what others don't. Stand up when it's hard. Protect the ones no one sees. Be quiet, but never silent. Loyalty is louder than words. No one claimed credit, but everyone knew who inspired it. And as the school year rolled on, the paw print in the courtyard didn't fade. In fact, kids started chalking new ones every week, because some stories don't end with a bark, they begin with one. The courtyard had grown quiet again. It wasn't the same kind of quiet it used to be, not the kind filled with tension and side glances. This quiet felt like calm after the storm, the kind of silence that settles in after something big happens, and people are still figuring out what it means. Bracco's paw prints, redrawn in chalk every Friday by different students, had become a silent ritual. No one talked about who drew them. They just appeared, fresh and glowing, like the school's own way of remembering what mattered. But Luna? She was moving forward. In more ways than one, she had started joining a small group during lunch. Not out of charity, not because anyone felt sorry for her. Just naturally. There was Olivia, who loved photography. Miguel, who drew comics on his math homework. And Ray, a girl who had been homeschooled for years and was still figuring out how middle school worked. They laughed together, talked about movies, argued about whether pineapple belonged on pizza. Luna said yes. Miguel said absolutely not. For once, Luna didn't feel like the girl in the chair. She was just Luna. But some wounds don't announce themselves. They stay quiet, waiting for the right moment to surface. And that moment came one cloudy Wednesday. It started with a message, slipped into her locker, folded tight, no name. Just her name on the outside, written in uneven handwriting. Luna opened it. I'm sorry. Just 2 words. But her heart raced. She didn't have to guess who it came from. Dante. She didn't know what to feel. The apology wasn't loud. It wasn't public. It wasn't wrapped in a speech or a grand gesture, but it was something. Still, it wasn't enough. Not yet. So she folded it back up, slid it into her backpack, and said nothing. Later that day, Principal Hartman pulled Luna aside after English class. I want to ask you something, she said gently. Luna nodded. Dante wants to make a formal apology. To you. To the class. But only if you're comfortable with it. Luna hesitated. I don't want to be part of some lesson plan, she said. This isn't for a grade. It's not, the principal replied. It's for healing. For everyone. Luna looked out the window. What if I don't believe him? Then that's your truth. And no one can take that from you. But sometimes, letting someone try helps you more than it helps them. Luna didn't answer. But that night she sat in bed and read the note again. And this time she didn't feel angry. She felt tired. Friday morning came with gray skies and scattered rain. There were no paw prints drawn that day. But Bracco was back. Officer. Jensen had brought him in for another visit. This time, he stayed near the library where students could stop by and spend a few minutes with him between classes. Luna found him during second period. Bracco was lying on a big blue mat, his eyes half closed, his chest rising slowly. She reached down and scratched his neck. I got a note, she whispered. From him. Bracco didn't move. But I don't know if I'm ready to forgive. Still no reaction. Do you think forgiveness is the same as trust? Bracco blinked once, slow, calm. Officer Jensen smiled from nearby. He doesn't know the answer to that, he said. But I think he'd tell you this. Forgiveness is for your peace, not theirs. Luna nodded. She stayed there a little longer. Then she said, Okay, let's try. That afternoon they gathered in Mr. Penn's classroom. It wasn't a big crowd. Just Luna, Principal Hartman, Mr. Penn, the school counselor, and Dante. Dante didn't look like himself. No jacket, no smirk. Just a kid who had run out of ways to hide. He held a small piece of paper in his hand but didn't read from it. He looked at Luna. I was mean. I thought it was funny. But it wasn't. I scared you. I made you feel alone. And I saw your face when the dog stopped me. You weren't just scared of me. You were used to being alone in it. And that's worse. Luna didn't look away. I'm not asking you to forgive me today. Or ever. I just needed to say it. No one clapped. No one interrupted. It was quiet in a way that mattered. Luna took a breath. Then she said, "Thank you for not making it about you." Dante blinked, confused. Most people say sorry because they want to feel better, she explained. But that sounded like it was for me. So, thanks. She wheeled herself out of the room without another word. And that was enough. That weekend, Luna and her mom visited a local animal shelter, not because they wanted a dog. Luna had Bracco in her life now in a different way, but because she wanted to volunteer. The shelter director smiled when she arrived. You sure you can manage the space? She asked gently. Luna smiled back. My wheels turn just fine. The dogs will get used to them. She was right. They did. Especially one little brown puppy who refused to leave her lap. She didn't take him home, but she promised to come back. By the next month, the school had launched a new student program. It was called Project Bracco. Students who wanted to talk about things they couldn't say out loud could write anonymous notes and drop them into a box near the main office. Every week, a few of those notes would be read with permission during morning announcements. The point wasn't to fix everything. It was to let people know they were seen. One day, Luna submitted a note herself. She didn't sign her name, but everyone who heard it knew who wrote it. Sometimes the bravest thing you'll do is survive, a day no one sees. But one day, someone will. Don't stop holding on until then. There was no applause, just silence. The kind that honors truth. Bracco came less often after that. His visits became rare, like holidays. But when he did appear, students still circled around him like he was a celebrity. He'd sit patiently, taking all the hugs and selfies, offering nothing but his calm, watchful presence. One morning, Luna saw him waiting by the front office. She rolled over and smiled. Still guarding the gate? Bracco licked her hand. You're still my favorite, she whispered. Officer Jensen grinned. Some heroes wear vests and badges, he said, but the best ones, they wear silence like armor. Luna looked down at her wheelchair, then up at the school doors opening for the day. Yeah, she replied, and sometimes they ride beside us. It had been 6 weeks since the day Dante apologized, and in that short time, Bradford Middle had slowly reshaped itself. Nothing flashy, no big banners or assemblies, just small changes. Teachers started giving mental reset breaks during class. Students wrote messages of encouragement on sticky notes and posted them on each other's lockers without names. Even the lunchroom. Monitors noticed fewer shouts and more quiet laughter. But one morning, Luna rolled through the courtyard and saw something that stopped her cold. The paw prints were gone. Rain had fallen the night before. Heavy, steady rain. And this time, no one had redrawn them yet. It shouldn't have mattered. But somehow, it did. By second period, she had already passed the art room twice. Not because she needed anything, but because she was hoping to run into Casey. He was the one who always redrew the prints. He never said it, but everyone knew. She didn't see him. Instead, she ran into Olivia, who tilted her head as soon as she noticed Luna looking toward the courtyard. You noticed, huh? The chalk? Yeah. He didn't come in this morning. Something about a family emergency. Luna nodded slowly. There wasn't anything she could do about that, but there was something else she could do. That afternoon, she asked the front office for chalk. The receptionist smiled. You gonna take over? Luna shrugged. Maybe just for today. She rolled outside and stared at the soaked pavement. She knew exactly where the paw prints had been. It wasn't about precision. It was about what they meant. She leaned forward and started to draw. It wasn't perfect. Her lines were a little shaky. The chalk broke twice, but when she finished, she sat back and looked at her work. 5 small paw prints in a curve like someone walking beside her. "Hey," a voice called. She turned to see Ray standing nearby with a camera. "You mind if I take a picture?" Luna laughed. "Knock yourself out." Click. The next day, that photo was printed and posted on the school bulletin board with a caption that read, "Sometimes the hero is the one who stays behind to keep the story going." Luna didn't know who wrote it, but it stayed up for the rest of the year. Meanwhile, Officer Jensen was planning something. It started as a small idea. Then it grew. Bracco wasn't getting any younger. He was nearly 10 now. Still sharp, still strong, but slower on the back steps and stiff in cold weather. The department had been talking about transitioning him to part-time duty. Jensen had mixed feelings. Bracco had done his job, more than his job. But what if his next job wasn't about catching bad guys? What if it was about something bigger, something quieter? Jensen brought it up with Principal Hartman one afternoon over coffee in the staff lounge. "I was thinking," he began, "about assigning Bracco to a new kind of duty." Her eyebrow rose. "He already protects half our emotional well-being." Chuckled. "What if we made it official?" "What do you mean?" "I mean therapy-certified, school-integrated, part-time mascot, part-time emotional support. Not just a visitor, a part of the team." Hartman sat back, thinking. "You'd have to clear that through the district. I'm already making the calls. And you think Bracco's ready to become a full-time school employee?" "I think he's already doing it." She nodded, then smiled. "We'll find him a name tag." Word got around fast. By the end of the week, Bracco had his own staff ID badge, complete with a photo and title, "School Wellness Partner." The kids went nuts. Some made him fan art. Others tried to sneak him treats between classes. Luna made him a collar charm shaped like a lightning bolt, and Bracco wore it proudly. The school even created a new tradition. Every Monday morning, Bracco would walk the halls for check-in hour. Any student who needed a quiet moment could pet him, sit beside him, or just follow him for a lap around the school. It was simple, but it worked. Kids who didn't speak much started to open up, not in words, but in size, in stillness, in showing. Up and in schools, showing up is sometimes the hardest thing to do. One morning during check-in hour, Bracco stopped in front of a boy no one expected, Dante. He hadn't said much in weeks. He did his work, ate alone, never got in trouble again. But he still felt like a shadow in the room. Bracco sat in front of him. Just sat, no bark, no nudge, no command. Dante looked down at the dog, then glanced around like he wasn't sure what to do. "Hey," he said softly. Bracco didn't move. Dante slowly reached out and placed his hand on Bracco's head. He didn't pet him. He just rested there. Luna passed by and saw them. She didn't say anything. She didn't need to. Some apologies come with time, and this one maybe was still being written. Later that day, Luna found Ray in the library editing photos. "You know that pic of the paw prints?" Ray asked. "Yeah, I submitted it." Luna raised an eyebrow. "To who?" "Local art contest. Youth division. Theme was silent strength." Luna blinked. "Did we win?" "We didn't just win. They want to use the image in a statewide campaign about anti-bullying." Luna sat back in her chair. "Wait. Seriously?" Ray grinned. "Dead serious. They asked if the story behind it was real. I told them everything. Well, most of it." Luna swallowed hard. It wasn't about the chalk anymore. It wasn't even about the dog. It was about what they all chose to remember, and what they refused to let fade. The following Monday, when students walked into school, they were greeted by something new, a mural, painted on the side wall of the gym, a giant stylized image of Bracco, mid-run, eyes focused, mouth open in determination. Behind him, faint chalk paw prints curved across the wall. In front of him, just barely, rolled a wheelchair, hand reaching back toward the dog, and below it, in bold letters, he didn't wait for the world to change. He became the reason it did. No one needed to be told what it meant. They already knew. Luna sat beneath the mural that afternoon, Bracco by her side. Ray took another photo. This time, Luna smiled with her whole face. She looked at Bracco. "Guess, you really are part of the staff now." Bracco let out a low, contented breath and leaned against her leg. And in that simple moment, without a crowd or applause, the two of them sat still. No barking, no speaking, no performance, just presence. And, sometimes, that's more than enough. The mural of Bracco stayed bright for a long time. Every student who passed it felt something. A few stopped and touched the painted paw prints. Some left notes underneath. Others just looked up and let it remind them that quiet heroes do exist. And sometimes they walk on four legs. But time, as it always does, kept moving. By spring, the flowers around the campus bloomed. The air was warmer. Bracco still came for check-in hour, but he moved a little slower now. His handler, Officer Jensen, noticed the limp in his back leg. Nothing serious, but enough to remind him that Bracco was entering his final season of service, and Luna? She had changed too, not in ways people could easily point out. She still used her chair. She still liked to read in the courtyard, but now she had a confidence about her. The kind that didn't need to shout to be heard. She spoke more in class. She volunteered to help new students find their way. And once a week, she still drew paw prints in chalk. Only now, others helped her. One morning during homeroom, the intercom crackled. Principal Hartman's voice came through, soft and warm. "Good morning, Bradford. Before we begin today's announcements, I want to let you know that our brave friend Bracco is officially retiring from active duty this month. He'll still visit, but not as often. He served our school and our hearts in ways we will never forget." The room went quiet. Even students who had only known Bracco for a few months understood the weight of those words. Retiring. It felt like the end of something big. A week later, the school held a special farewell ceremony in the gym. Students made posters. Staff wore shirts with Bracco's face on them. A local bakery donated dog-shaped cookies for the kids and real dog treats for the guest of honor. Bracco walked down the center aisle like a celebrity. Kids clapped and cheered. Some held back tears. Others didn't try. Luna sat near the front, with her friends. When it was her turn to speak, she rolled to the mic with the small note card she had prepared. But when she looked out at everyone, at the art teacher wiping her eyes, at Officer Jensen standing tall beside Bracco, she put the card away. She didn't need it. "Bracco didn't just protect me," she said. "He reminded this whole school what it means to pay attention. Not just to danger, but to each other. He saw what nobody else saw. And because of him, we started seeing too." She looked down at Bracco. "I used to think heroes had to be loud. Bracco proved me wrong." There wasn't a dry eye in the room. After the ceremony, Luna sat alone with Bracco in the library. The room was quiet, except for the soft sound of a clock ticking and Bracco's slow breathing. She leaned down and whispered, "Are you scared?" Bracco blinked. She smiled. "Me neither." Officer Jensen walked in a few minutes later carrying a folder. He sat across from her and handed it over. "What's this?" Luna asked. "Just something to think about." Inside the folder were papers about a new program, therapy dog training for kids, with a special section on wheelchair accessibility and student participation. Luna stared at it. I want you to think about it. You already understand what it means to be steady for others. That's half the work." Luna looked at Bracco, who had now laid his head across her footrest. "I think," she said, "he already taught me how." The next few months moved 8th grade graduation, photos, yearbooks, farewells. Dante stood up and spoke at the final assembly. He didn't say much. Just thanked the school for letting him grow. Luna clapped. She meant it. Olivia won a regional photography award. Casey got into a magnet art program. Miguel finally admitted that pineapple on pizza wasn't the worst idea. Life kept happening. And Bracco? He made one last visit the day before summer break. He didn't run. He didn't jump. He just walked through the halls slowly, one paw at a time, taking in every sound, every smell, every glance from the students who had become his family. Outside the main office, someone had drawn a massive chalk paw print, surrounded by hundreds of smaller ones, each made by a different student's hand. When Bracco saw it, he stopped and sat, right in the center, as if to say, "This is where I belong." Years later, the school would add a small bronze plaque to the base of the mural. It read, "Bracco, more than a dog, a friend, a protector. The reason we learned to look twice." Students still pause there, teachers still tell the story, and somewhere Luna, now older, still rolling strong, helps train dogs for therapy programs. She wears a silver charm shaped like a paw, and when she tells people why, she smiles and says, "It started with a dog who didn't wait for permission to do the right thing. Because that's the lesson, isn't it? We wait so long for someone else to take the first step. To notice, to help, to speak. But what if you're the one who's supposed to see? What if you're the one meant to move first? Sometimes the bark never comes. Sometimes the message is in the silence. So here's the question for you. Who in your life needs you to be the one who notices first?